Okay, we'll get underway. So good to see you all. I hope everyone's doing well. So it's myself, Michael, Head of Professional Service, joined by my colleague Gareth from our product team.
Hi all.
And today we're going to just give you an overview of some of the updates that we've got coming out in our 4.13 release, which is due to go out this weekend. So in terms of the format for the webinar, similar to what we've done before, I'll just give you a run through of some of the updates. We'll open up Flexigrant and walk through them. We'll also give you just a little bit of background for some of our internal processes in terms of how we've come to decide what's going out in this release and why we've decided to make some of the updates. Then also give you an opportunity for some questions at the end as normal. So just in terms of a bit of an overview before we jump into Flexigrant, what we're going to cover this morning. So we've got some updates on our EDI feature that we've done a few webinars on in the past. So we'll talk about how we've expanded that to capture EDI from external participants and reviewers. And then we've got a handful of quality of life improvements, small updates that, again, will give you a bit of context for where these have come from and why we decided to implement them. And we'll walk through them in Flexigrant as well, so everyone understands how you could potentially avail of them or how they may impact your processes if you use any of the relevant functionality. So I'll jump out of PowerPoint now and just open up Flexigrant. So the first update I'm going to go through is some of the improvements we've made to our EDI functionality. So last year we implemented our new EDI functionality, which allows you to build a custom EDI form. You can maintain all the questions. And this year we've already made a few updates to expand the users that you can capture and request EDI from. So the first bit, our new cohort of users you can now capture EDI from, is our external participants. So if you're using the collaboration feature, previously you were able to capture EDI from the lead applicant and also co-applicants. So that was available in the old diversity feature and the new EDI. We've now extended the EDI feature to allow you to capture EDI from your external participants. So it is optional to do this. You don't have to make use of it if it's not relevant or not required, but just giving you that flexibility. So if you set up some external participant roles as part of your grant scheme and you would like to capture their EDI as part of their contribution to the application, you can now do so. So this will be going out as part of our 4.13 release. So in your collaboration settings, you'll see we have made a bit of an update to the external participant grid. There's a new EDI column where for any role, if I edit, you can now just enable the capture of the EDI. And that will just work the same way as the lead applicant, co-applicants. Anyone who's been invited to that role will just need to complete their My EDI page before they can finish their contribution to the application. So again, entirely optional. It is ultimately up to yourselves whether you want to make use of that functionality if you need EDI from any of those users, but you can now enable that, and then in the grid, it's just made nice and obvious who you're capturing that from. So just a small update that allows you to expand, I suppose, the users that you capture EDI from. And alongside that, a further update we're then also making to the EDI is the ability to capture it from your reviewers. So within the EDI settings, we're introducing new settings that allow you to make it mandatory for the reviewers who are assigned to your applications within specific rounds to provide their EDI. So you can do this at a round level, a review round level. So if you've enabled EDI against a grant scheme, if you've configured your workflow to make use of the review workflow stage, and if you've configured at least one round or potentially multiple rounds, you can now see within the EDI settings, you can now say whether it is mandatory for reviewers to provide their EDI as part of providing a review. So again, completely optional to do this. You don't have to do it if you don't want. You can decide whether it's for all rounds or maybe just particular ones that you want to capture EDI from. So you can enable that against your grant scheme. And what that then means, if I just open up a reviewer on this demo system, is when a reviewer is completing their review, they will now have a tab in their review form to provide their EDI. So that tab is just giving them quick access to the same EDI form that people can complete against their account. So if they already have provided their EDI information, it will just be flagged as complete. If they haven't done so already, they can just pop in and provide the information. So that's just allowing you to capture that information also from your reviewers if that's some demographics you'd like to report on. So the same EDI form that would be presented to your applicants also can be completed by reviewers as part of completing their review as well. So again, entirely optional whether you want to do that, but just expanding the functionality so you can start capturing this information from a wider group of users in the system. And what we've also then done as part of that is within the query and export tool in Flexigrant, we're introducing a new report that allows you to pull out that information, again, in a anonymized manner like you do with your applicants. So there'll be a new reviewer EDI monitoring report where you can specifically pull out the information that reviewers have provided as part of completing their reviews, so you can analyze and report on that. So again, just a few updates, expanding the EDI functionality to allow you to capture it from both the external participants and your reviewers if you choose to do so. Again, it's optional to do so. It's entirely up to yourselves which grant schemes you enable that on if you decide it is something you'd like to do. So that's the main focus of our update, but alongside that, we also have a series of what we call quality of life improvements. So before we go through those, just give you a little bit of context and background for what we mean by quality of life and how we've come to decide to include those in the release. So Gareth, if you want to, I suppose, kick us off with a little bit of background information.
Yeah, sure. So with the quality of life improvements, a bit of a deviation to how we've possibly kind of released in the past, and that we would have been looking at fixing as many bugs as possible across the platform. Thankfully now, glad to report there's not as many bugs as there are, or certainly any that are high enough priority to get a real focus on. So we've been able to kind of shift over to these, what we call quality of life improvements. So these are ideas that come through the AHA or ideas portal, and items that we prioritize because we believe it'll have a bigger impact across all of our clients, rather than putting out stuff in what we would have called what's still our maintenance release that possibly are only impacting one or two customers. And what ties in with that really nicely is, from a development team point of view, big part of Q1 for us is starting to focus on becoming much more agile. And from your point of view, what that will start to look like as the year goes on is more frequent releases. So moving away from the monthly release, and certainly moving away from kind of 3 or 4 months and then a big piece of functionality coming out. By releasing little and often, we'll get to iterate on it. There'll be a lot more kind of webinars like this where we show parts of new bits of functionality, and it gives that opportunity for you guys to also give feedback on items as well. And that kind of ties in nicely then with the first one there, which is the committee workspace now includes your logo. So the committee workspace, there's a whole other half to that. I'm sure you've heard about it before, and it's on the product roadmap for the reviewer side of the committee workspace, which we're actively working on at the minute, and hopefully be seeing more of that during the year, where you'll be able to see your split screen, a bit more review functionality in there, and just a nice clean experience. And part of that at the moment then is trying to get the user experience when you go from what we would refer to as Flexigrant Core app over into the committee workspace, getting the header design to match up. So it's a much cleaner move across. So you almost feel like you're essentially still in Flexigrant as you go across into the committee workspace. So there'll be more to follow on that in upcoming releases. And then, as I say, in due course, we'll be having a webinar to start to show you more of what's on the reviewer side of things as well.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Gareth. Yep. So yeah, as he mentioned, yeah, your logo now appears in the top of the workspace. Previously, it was an old Flexigrant logo, but now it'll be consistent with the logo in your tenant. And yeah, we'll be updating, I suppose, the main navigation heading, just so it's nice and consistent with main Flexigrant, so it's not too jarring for the user when they move between the two different parts of the system. Yep. So as Gareth says, yep, we're always on the lookout for those quality of life improvements. So again, before I go through, it's with the next handful, where a lot of these have come from is our colleague Amy, who manages the support desk and is responding to your tickets every day. She's always on the lookout for recurring issues that either there's functionality where there's maybe certain things that you can do that you can't roll back, or maybe get locked in without the option to revert them back if you made an error or you click something by accident. So he's always on the lookout for those issues that either you can't address yourselves, you have to come to us, and maybe our engineering team needs to intervene, which is obviously not a great way to use our resources, our time, or even your time. You're having to escalate it to us. So we're always on the lookout for those bits of functionality that we could improve, that just gives you, or maybe even the end users, more power to roll things back or reopen certain functionality. So that's what a lot of these next improvements are focusing on. So as an example, the first one, closed grants now be reopened. So what this is if I jump back into Flexigrant, is when you make a grant in the award summary, you have the option to update an in-progress grant to the closed status. So generally closed is used for grants that are maybe finished early or didn't complete fully. So there's maybe something wrong with it, so it's going to be closed off instead of completed. So you can do that within Flexigrant at the moment, at any time. The issue we had though is when you close a grant, if you did that by mistake, or if you closed it too early and realized you need to actually go back in and add a payment or some extra information, if you tried to roll it back, it actually rolled back into the offer stage rather than in progress, which meant going through the offer stage again, which obviously isn't ideal. Sort of goes over the previous audit history, a bit of a waste of time. So what we've done, relatively simple update, is if you've closed a grant, if you go into the summary of it, and if you do need to reopen it for whatever reason within the settings, on the right hand side, we've just brought in an option to reopen the application. So you can enter your reason for the audit history. I can reopen my grant, and it will then simply move back into the in progress status within the award summary stage. So it saves you having to move it back through the offer stage. So it might look like quite a small update, but that was actually a recurring issue that a lot of our clients came across. And sometimes we actually had to intervene to manually put it back to in progress because they didn't want to destroy the audit history of the offer stage again. So just a small update. So anyone who's maybe logged a ticket in the past, after this weekend, you'll be able to reopen a closed grant back to in progress and do whatever you need to do against it without having to go through the offer stage again. So that's one that's come up because of a sort of analysis of some recurring tickets that we've seen on the support desk that we decided to address. Next one then is another just small update relating to the collaboration functionality. So this is where if you've built an application form making use of the collaboration functionality and the participants tab, it is possible to set up those external participant roles and have them optional. Therefore, the applicant may have the option to flag those as not required. So the applicant could say, maybe I don't need this international partner, so I'm just going to tick on not required. And what that means is if that individual, that role, had a particular page in the application form that they needed to complete, it just closes it off and just means it doesn't interfere with their ability to complete the application form and submit it. So that functionality worked fine. It was useful for roles that are optional and not mandatory. But the issue we had was whenever you make something not required, there was no option to roll that back if, say, the applicant changed their mind or maybe accidentally clicked it without really considering the implications. So again, just a small update is we're introducing a new button that allows the applicant just to make that open again so they can make use of it. So even if I set it to not required, I can now just click the button required and that just reopens it, and I can now make use of that role if I want to. So again, this was an issue where if you wanted to roll that back, you would have had to have used a support desk and we would have had to have intervened manually and updated the status behind the scenes of the role to allow the applicant to make use of it. So quite a recurring issue in our support desk that we've had to deal with. So again, just giving the end user the ability, the applicant in this scenario, to do that themselves. So they don't have to raise it with yourselves, you don't have to raise it with us. It's just saving everyone a little bit of time, and it doesn't hinder the process to completing the application. So a small tweak, but hopefully addresses a long-standing issue that you've had to raise tickets about before. And then the final one in terms of quality of life relates to our budget confirmation and approval feature, which I know a handful of clients are making use of. So not everyone uses this feature. It's sort of an add-on to the budget table functionality. So you may not be using it, so maybe not only relevant to a handful of people. But what this feature allows is if you're using the budget table feature, if enabled, you can then use the budget confirmation process to confirm the specific periods that are going to be awarded at the outset of a grant. So whether it's the full award or maybe part of the award. Previously or at the moment, when you complete this process, an offer letter is generated when you complete a budget confirmation. What we're introducing, based on some feedback, is just a checkbox to decide whether an offer letter is actually generated. So we had some feedback from users saying sometimes we want to adjust the budget, reconfirm it, but we don't need to issue an offer letter. Therefore, we don't want one generating every single time. So again, we're just introducing a simple checkbox so the end user can decide whether they need an offer letter. If they don't, it just saves some extra unneeded documentation from being generated and stored against the application case file. So again, just a small tweak, but something we're introducing based on some feedback from our users who've been using this functionality over the last few years. So we're always on the lookout for the small quality of life improvements that are maybe quite quick, simple to implement, but do add a decent amount of value to the end users and maybe minimize the amount of support you need from us to intervene and update certain instances. Okay. Yep. So that's the summary of what's going out in this release at the end of the month this weekend. So again, just in terms of summary, we've got some updates to the EDI feature. Then we've got this series of quality of life improvements. So we're always on the lookout for those quality of life improvements. Amy, when she's on the support desk, is always keeping an eye on any recurring issues. If she does notice them, that's where we log them on our internal AHA product management system, as Gareth mentioned. We review those on a monthly basis. We're sort of assessing every bit of feedback idea in terms of the impact, how many customers it might affect, the value it brings if we were to decide to update it. So we're always trying to look for those small improvements we can make sort of month by month that just improve your day-to-day use of Flexigrant and maybe save yourselves having to raise tickets in certain scenarios. So hopefully more of those to come throughout the year. And so that release will be going out this weekend, and we'll have plenty of webinars throughout the course of the year as and when we have useful updates to share. So look for any news on those in your inbox. Okay, well, thanks for your time, everyone, this morning.
Thank you all.
Have a nice rest of the week, and I'm sure we'll talk to you all soon.